strength training doesn't need to be complicated.
The less we can complicate it and the easier and more accessible we can make it, the more people will participate, which is going to make the population healthier.
You want to try to get the most out of your workout in the least amount of time, not the most out of your workout in the most amount of time.
Welcome to the Strength Changes Everything podcast, where we introduce you to the information, latest research, and tools that will enable you to live a strong, healthy life. On this podcast, we will also answer your questions about strength, health, and well-being. I'm Amy Hudson. I own and operate 3 exercise coach studios. My co-hosts are Brian Sagan, co-founder and CEO of The Exercise Coach, and Dr. James Fisher, leading researcher in evidence-based strength training. And now for today's episode.
Hi, welcome back to the Strength Changes Everything podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are greeted here today with another guest. Today we have, in my opinion, and in literal terms, the man who wrote the book on strength training, Mr. Matt Brzycki. And when I say he wrote the book, one of the key texts from my undergraduate studying of strength training was A Practical Approach to Strength Training. And some of his other phenomenal texts were things like Maximize Your Training, amongst others. There was a 5th edition, which we'll share an image of now so that you can link to it on Amazon and get a copy of the latest version of the book on the YouTube channel. We'll link to that. But Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me, James and Amy. What my name is probably most associated with is, my last name is, I came up with a formula to estimate a 1 repetition maximum based upon reps to fatigue that was published in the January 1993 issue of the Journal of Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance, JOFR. It's been referenced like almost 1,275 times in the last 32 years. So I think that's probably safe to say it's the most popular equation of its kind, at least from a research standpoint.
To be honest, Matt, I thought that you were going to say that the highlight of your career was in 2014 publishing a paper with me and Bill DeSimone and James Steele titled Primum Non Nocere, a commentary on avoiding injuries and safe resistance training techniques.
Well, part of the problem there, I would have mentioned it, but I don't speak Latin. That's not my...
Well, your input on that paper was incredible. So first of all, if I've never thanked you for that, thank you for that. And we'll also link to that paper. But maybe that's a nice segue into what we're actually here to talk about, and that's your kind of key points, or your kind of top tips for designing a resistance training program.
I have 6 checkpoints that I like to talk about, or boxes to check when someone's trying to decide what program to adopt. And, there's not quite an infinite number of programs out there, but it's pretty close to an infinite number if you consider the number of possible variations and variables that, to be considered. But some of the things that I look for are, one is the program should be productive. And by productive, in simple terms, it should work. And any program's going to work as long as it abides by what the research says. It should be evidence-based. And I know, one of the things I really like being associated with the Exercise Coach is they were among the forerunners in terms of promoting information and education and training concepts that were evidence-based. So again, that's a really big deal. And what does science say? Not anecdote. Okay. I think a program should be comprehensive. And by comprehensive, I mean individuals should focus on all the major muscle groups in their body, not just the quote unquote showy ones. And I remember I had Dan Riley was a college strength coach, a professional strength coach. I think he finished 27 years in the National Football League between the Washington Redskins and the Houston Texans. I actually had him for class at Penn State. I was in the last class that he taught, the last full class that he taught at Penn State before he left for the Washington Redskins. And I want to say that was 1981. It's either 80, 81. But at any rate, One of the things he said in the class was that stuck with me is people tend to train the muscles that they can see in the mirror. So what does that mean? If you think about it, that means stuff like the really, really important muscles like the hamstrings are probably going to get under-addressed, or if they're addressed at all. Uh, Muscles like the posterior deltoid, are going to get either under-addressed or not addressed at all. And, muscles like that and others are important from an overall balance standpoint, and especially so from a symmetrical standpoint. Also, if we're thinking about in terms of injury prevention, because if you, for example, the hamstrings, if they get very little attention and the quadriceps get a boatload of attention, or the anterior deltoid gets a boatload of attention and the posterior deltoid gets very little, then we have a muscle imbalance. And that, as you know, that's increase the potential for injury due to a muscle imbalance. So we want to make sure that we train all the muscles from the ears to the ankles.
I think you raise a really good point, and some of my own research has looked at things like low back training, which has been underutilized in most people. I guess when most people think about strength training, it becomes a bit of a joke to talk about it as like a beach workout of chest, abs, and biceps. But people do often fall into that trap. And of course, the posterior chain, the upper rhomboids, the upper traps, everything that kind of pulls our spine back into a neutral position, prevents us having that kyphotic posture and prevents that low back pain, is essential to kind of longevity in training and quality of life, rather than just having muscles for show, as you say.
Hey, here's another one that Dan said is that related to this. I remember Dan was very quotable. He was very entertaining guy, very knowledgeable guy, very quotable. But one of the other things he mentioned along these lines is that if you ask somebody to make a muscle, what are they typically going to do? They're almost like 99 out of 100 or more, or 99.999 forever. They're going to flex their biceps, right? And he mentioned how many people, like when challenged by make a muscle or show me a muscle, how many people turn around, pull up their shirt tail and show their lower back? Like zero, right? And as you said, that's one of the most important muscles in your body for a number of reasons.
I think it's really interesting. There was a paper by Jeremy Lenecki's group quite recently that was titled "Do Muscles Compete with Each Other for Growth?" And it's sort of saying, if you only train the biceps compared to, say, the biceps and the quadriceps, and I use those two examples because that's often what's done in research studies, that there's some suggestion that the biceps grow more if they're only trained alone. And actually, are they taking potential growth from the other muscles? Certainly, what the evidence is showing is that metabolically our body is healthier and burns more calories and has greater kind of overarching benefits when we train every muscle in the body. So the goal from a resistance training workout is not to do a split routine, but it's exactly as Matt said, to have a comprehensive workout of training every muscle that we can in the body from top to toe. So I think that's a great point. I just want to pause for a second and recap. So point one was productive. Was that productive? And it was
Productive.
evidence-based. And point two was comprehensive. So a whole body workout. Okay, awesome. Tell us about point three, Matt.
Third one, and these next couple are the ones that I'm a little bit more big on than the others, but not that I'm not the other ones are taking a back seat, but just two of the things that I sort of push is one is it practical. I mean, it's in the name of it's in the title of that first book that I wrote, but practical meaning that strength training and getting fit in general shouldn't be complicated. It should be easy to understand. And I think you have a lot of these so-called influencers out there, fitness influencers that we have nowadays, or even before that, personal trainers and some coaches, where I think they really did a good job at overcomplicating things. Like the classic Rube Goldberg, like build a better mousetrap. And it's, you take a simple thing and they just make it overly complicated. And strength training doesn't need to be complicated. Strength training is actually quite simple in terms of, if we look at it from how do we increase strength, how do we become more fit? The answers to those are they're pretty simple. And again, people just tend to make those more complicated than they really are. And I think that it adds, I think from a selling point, I think consumers, I think they like complicated. I think they like mysterious because I think they feel that, or many people feel that that's going to be effective that way. If it's complicated, it can't be that easy. In other words, it can't be that simple. Yeah, it can be.
Well, the downside to that too, and the flip side of that coin is if the majority of the population believe that it's complicated to strength train, that's going to weed out a lot of people from actually even attempting to participate, right?
Oh,
If
for
if
sure, that's a good point. Sure.
and that's what we don't wanna have happen is that somebody, who could really benefit from participating in strength training believes that they don't have the enough knowledge to be able to do so effectively. So the less we can complicate it and the easier and more accessible we can make it, the more people will participate, which is going to make the population healthier, right? So that's our goal.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yep.
I'm a huge believer in uncomplicated strength training, and I think that even some of the governing bodies who have a responsibility to promote strength training to the masses have done a pretty poor job actually of overcomplicating it and potentially overwhelming so many people that would be engaged in strength training, but for the fear of complexity and not understanding what's being done. Added to which, anybody who's even the most experienced strength training person going into the gym with the perception that they have to engage in potentially the bizarre and ridiculous. It just isn't appropriate in my opinion.
Yes, one of the biggest barriers people have to participating or getting started in strength training is fear of getting hurt. Another one is time, right? Another one is disliking the big gym scene or frankly just disliking exercise. A lot of people believe that exercise is no fun. And so those are the biggest ones that our business exists to address and help people overcome and get past because there's just we understand that there's a lot of barriers people have, right? And so we're trying to make it simple. We're trying to make it quick. We're trying to make it less intimidating and actually fun, right? And that's the key that helps people succeed. So,
And you're trying to make it safe. And I want to, I'm going to jump my notes here a little bit, based upon what you had said in terms of people are afraid of getting hurt. They should be. They should be afraid of getting hurt in the gym because a lot of the things out there that are being recommended they're criminal, frankly. And if anybody doesn't believe me, just go on YouTube and search for GYM, gym fails. And you're going to get video after video after video of ridiculous things being done and people on film getting hurt like badly, from doing ridiculous things. And, one of the things, one of the goals of strength training is to make your muscles, bones, and joints more or less susceptible to injury by making them stronger. So it's really contradictory if you think about it to then go turn around. I mean, if you believe that, and you should, it's contradictory to turn around and recommend potentially dangerous activities that in the fitness center or the gym. And that's something that people really need to take into consideration. And even one of the points that I try to make to the younger crowd is that and all of us were young once, and we thought, I mean, we didn't think this way, but in a sense, this is the way we felt, is that we thought we were superheroes. We thought bullets bounced off us. We're invulnerable. We're never going to get hurt. And eventually that's going to catch up with you. If think about the things with a younger person, they're never too young to think about their older selves. What are they doing now in the gym, or things they're doing now in the gym? Is that going to impact them, 5, 10, 15 years down the road in terms of their low backs, being in constant pain, their knees being in pain, and their necks being in pain because of stuff they did when they were younger.
Matt, you raised just a phenomenal point there. And I think that safety in strength training, I mean, by its very definition, strength training as exercise is there to prevent injury and improve the quality of life and improve our bodily function. If we're getting injured doing it, then it's by its very definition, it's not exercise. But second of all, you raised two key things. We I smirked when you talked about the gym fails on YouTube, but it's not laughable. It is, like you said, it's criminal.
Right.
And many of the injuries are very severe injuries. And they're not just limited to people who are naive about exercise. They're professional athletes, who are being hurt, NFL players, NBA players, and so forth, who are being hurt by doing things that are simply not as productive or in the least not as safe as other alternatives. And it's not just the acute injuries that we see in the gym fails video, like you said, it's the long-term effect of strength training in the wrong way that can cause that low back pain, that shoulder pain, that knee pain, and so forth. So it's not just safety today, but it's safety over a longevity, over a lifetime of strength training. And of course, that's what we want people to engage in. We want it to be a regular habit that's got a degree of frequency to it to maintain that the health benefits and the strength benefits.
Matt, would you do me a favor and break down the components of what a safe workout looks like?
No particular order. I think from a safety standpoint, the first thing that pops into my head is overtraining, right? So people do too many sets, they train too frequently, they do too many exercises and so on. So I think right off the bat, a program which consists of workouts, those workouts should be infrequent and they shouldn't be very long. And they should address not only the major muscles, but also I think technique is often overlooked as well. So besides the overtraining factor that comes into play, but the good technique, I mean, that's got to be emphasized. And most people, they think if the weight's just going up and down, the technique, they're not even thinking technique. They just worried about the weight going up and down. Particularly, they worry about the weight going up. They pay no attention to the weight going down, the negative phase or eccentric phase of the movement. So the technique has to be really tight and crisp, as I like to put it. The infrequent training, of relatively low volume of training. I think those are some of the components that go into a safe workout or safe program.
Sure.
I think supervision is another one. Ideally, and not everybody's going to be able to hire a personal trainer or if you join a commercial gym, there's only so many staff to go around. They can't manage all those individuals at any one time, but supervision will be another critical component.
At our exercise coach studios, our coaches teach the clients, what form we're looking for each exercise.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And sometimes it helps clients realize, hey, my body is wiggling out everywhere in the seat as I'm doing this exercise. I need to sit still. I need to focus on not arching my back. Everyone's going to have their different proclivities when the weight goes up to cheat on form sometimes, right? And so the supervisor's job or the trainer's job is to teach proper form and to watch. And we even will tell clients we'd rather have your total effort decrease but maintain the correct form all the way till the end of the set.
Exercise coach does a really, really great job in terms of providing, not only from an educational well, it's under the umbrella, I guess, of education, but providing individuals with safer alternatives, so to speak, for training. They just get it right.
Well, the fact is nobody wants to take a step forward in their fitness by exercising, but then injure themselves and then they've set themselves back by 3 steps. That's not what anybody
And
wants.
are they going to want to go back to the gym again? Probably not. They get
Right.
hurt early on.
Absolutely.
I'm going to jump in with one other comment, and this links closely to what you said about technique and, of course, supervision. And that's the range of motion that people work through. I see some, and there's more and more encouragement in recent media about using extremes in range of motion. And that's something that we might not pay for in the immediate term, especially for the younger guys, as you said, Matt. But certainly as we get older, our shoulders are absolutely going to pay if we're working through an extreme range of motion, whether that's in a degree of flexion or if that's locking out a joint. So I think that's there's a few really key points there about a safe workout. Thank you for that.
The other one, big one, really big one that I have in notes is the program should be efficient that you're using. And it's from the standpoint of you want to try to get the most out of your workout in the least amount of time. Not the most out of your workout in the most amount of time. You want the most in the least to get more bang for your buck. And that, and if you go, the one real Uh, One of my pet peeves, or maybe my biggest pet peeve right now in gyms, is cell phones, right? They're workout killers, right? That's what I call them, cell phone workout killers. You see individuals, and you see this in like just about any commercial gym on the planet, exercise coach excluded, where individuals come in and they can't put the weight down fast enough, complete the set fast enough because they want to get on their cell phone. And I joked to individual, I was with an individual at that point, and I joked to him, I said, they're all texting each other, telling them they're having a great workout, you know? And it's just a workout killer. When you could only focus on one thing, are you going to focus on your workout or are you going to focus on your phone? One or the other. Just an intensity killer, from a hard work standpoint, an effort standpoint. That's one of my pet peeves. But if we if we look at an individual and they say, and this ties into kind of like the barriers that Amy's been talking about, is a barrier to a lot of people in their minds. They have to go to the gym 5, 6 days a week, 2, 3 hours a time. That's a part-time job. If you by definition, pretty much. And it doesn't have to be that way, but if we look at an individual who's, you say, "Oh, I work out for 2 hours," or "I work out for 3 hours," and then we track them. So we observe them in the gym, and every time they pick up a weight and lift it, we hit a stopwatch. And when they put it down, when they're done, we hit it again. So we're clocking basically the time of their activity, not the time that they're in the gym. And a lot of these 3-hour workouts, they're really like less than an hour of actual activity. So, again, that's not really efficient from a time standpoint. You're not getting a lot of bang for your buck there.
You know what? One story I'll share about this, before I found the exercise coach, I didn't know how to exercise effectively. So all I knew how to do was run, and I thought that was a good form of exercise. I could do it, right? I knew how to do it. So, I wanted to stay fit, so I would run, and it would take me 5 hours a week because I would go out 4 days a week for 45 minutes, and then I'd have to shower, and I'd have a lot of time that it cost me, right? But that was also on top of working full time, and I had 2 young babies at home that I wanted to spend time with after work, and to fit my fitness in that way was costing me all of my other spare time, and I wasn't seeing progress. My fitness was not changing notably from it, right? And then when I started strength training, I was strength training only 20 minutes twice a week. Within 6 months, I noticed more changes physically, metabolically, with my weight, with everything, than I had in years and years and years of spending longer doing it. So this was exciting for me because I'm a type of person that I want the benefits that exercise has to offer, but I don't wanna spend all my free time doing it.
Yeah,
And
right.
so
Yeah.
that to me is the best news for somebody who values their time, is that it actually should be shorter and done more efficiently.
Yep.
Yeah, just to speak to something that you said about starting and stopping a stopwatch when somebody's actually training during one of their so-called 3-hour workouts. There was a paper a couple of years back that talked about 52 sets of lower body exercise, of leg extensions and leg presses and squats and so forth. And I got asked a great question about it at the time by one of my students. And with the class there, we pulled the paper out and we broke it down. We looked at the rep duration that each exercise was working to, the number of reps they did, and then the time interval between each set. And I think they were training 3 or 4 times per week, and in total of those 3 or 4 times per week, they were doing 26 minutes of lower body exercise for their 52 sets. So you can imagine that there was like 2 to 3 minutes of rest between. So they're doing 26 minutes of exercise and literally 4 hours of not exercise.
Yep.
So
There you
it's
go.
just it's absolutely mind blowing. This is not I'm 100% behind you about efficiency. It's I don't have that time to burn. I would love to have that kind of time to burn. I don't know anybody that does.
And I think it's a matter too, is because a lot of times people say that they spend time in the gym. Well, what you really should be doing is invest time in the gym. And I guess kind of related to this too, I guess we covered safety a good bit there, but The other one point would be from a sustainability standpoint. Can you sustain those workouts over time? For example, if you go to the gym and the trainer introduces you to this is what we have to do. We're going to be working 5 or 6 days a week. We're going to be doing 2-hour workouts. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be doing that. Basically, again, a form of manual labor or part-time job. How long is that person going to last? Maybe not too long, right? Because that's a barrier. And are they apt to go? If they have a bad experience the first time around, are they apt to go back? Not likely. Okay, so one of the barriers being, to get their foot in the door. A lot of people, they, especially nowadays, it depending on what pocket of the country you're in, but people don't have a lot of generous amount of free time that they could spend in the gym. They have, like Amy said, to her point too, is the workouts that she was doing. She had a full-time job. She had a family life. She had a lot of other things going on. And the good thing is that you don't need to spend, or you don't need to invest a lot of time. There I go again, saying spend. You don't need to invest a lot of time when you go to the gym or fitness center, as long as you do it the right way. I think that comes under the umbrella of safety as well, and barriers to going into the gym and continue with workouts.
So, Matt, these are really helpful guidelines. On this podcast, we talk a lot about the importance of strength training, but I think the other side of the coin is how to do so in an effective way, or what's important when it comes to stepping into strength training. And these factors are really, really beneficial. We've covered a lot of good stuff here. Is there one of these guidelines that you would say, if I were to ask you, that you think maybe is one of the most challenging guidelines for the average person to follow?
The most challenging one it might be from an efficiency standpoint. Trying to get the most out of your workout in the least amount of time. And I think simply, you people don't look at. I mean, you gotta. It's like a good news, bad news joke. The good news is you don't have to spend a lot of time in the weight room to get good results. The bad news is that it's challenging. It's going to be hard. You have to put forth some degree of effort. And if you're not willing to do that, then that's when you're not gonna get good results, and that's what you're gonna try to make up for in terms of high volume training.
I know in another episode, we talked about supervision and some of the statistics around that. And one thing I remember from that episode is just that on average, supervised workouts, we see people performing up to 30% better under a supervision of a trainer. Then when you talk about that level of intensity that's necessary to actually produce the changes we're looking for in our muscles, having a trainer there or having a coach there supervising you helps lead people to give more in a safe environment, in a safe way, um, to get more out of their workout. So wanted to plug that other episode of supervision if that's something that you're interested in on that topic as well. But I totally agree.
Yeah, I seem to remember a study that was done, uh, in terms of related to supervision, is that all the person had to do is stand there to be in view of the person doing the exercise, and they actually performed better just because somebody was there without saying a word. And obviously, if we start to add language to that, it's gonna go up, even more. But just being there is actually helpful.
When we start to talk about supervision studies, I've published a number of studies on supervision, have a number in press right now. And actually, it's really fascinating because, for example, there are studies where they've looked at kind of adolescent rugby players, and of course, it's very difficult to leave them in an unsupervised workout. So they have kind of maybe a team manager with them, or a locker room attendant will be with them. And of course, yeah, that's a peer that's immediately influencing the workout themselves. And then in other studies, they're told that they kind of talked through how to do a workout. They're given like 6 weeks of this is how you should train, and then get told to go away and train untrained. But they've already had all of this supervision that precedes the workout. So they've had all of this, I've used the term facilitation that's guided them through the workout. And of course, when we tend to think about supervised and unsupervised, what we normally think about is you've either got somebody there walking you through the workout, giving you feedback as you go, correcting technique, enhancing safety, promoting effort, enjoyment, so on and so forth. Or you haven't got somebody there and there's no feedback at all and there's no peer influence at all. And of course, at the exercise coach, all workouts are supervised, and that optimizes the effectiveness of the workouts themselves. I just want to take a step back, Matt, and just jump back through the 6 that you mentioned, just to highlight for our listeners. And of course, this isn't just for the exercise coach clients. This is for anybody who's engaging in strength training or anybody who's looking to engage in strength training, to ask these questions of the workout that you're designing or of the workout that you're engaging in. So the first was, is it productive? Is it evidence-based? The second was comprehensive. Is it a whole body workout? Are you training all of the muscles, not just the show muscles or the beach muscles? Is it practical? E.g., is it uncomplicated? Is it manageable? And so forth. Is it safe? Are you engaging in exercises or methods that can be hazardous or long-term or short-term injury? Is it efficient? And is it sustainable? So does the workout have longevity over time that you can maintain and it can become a regular part of lifestyle? Matt, was there any other final points or thoughts around strength training that you wanted to share with us?
That's pretty much it. But I do want to say that um, I'm really honored to be associated with not just you guys, but exercise coach in general, because of I think we have a similar approach. We have a similar mindset, and I think the exercise coach is doing a really very, very good job at educating not just their client base, but also the masses, as evidenced by this sort of podcast, the podcast that you've been doing. So again, I got to tip my hat to the exercise coach for doing a really, really good job.
I appreciate the comments, and of course, I echo them because, having nearly 20 years in academia, I was pried away to come to the exercise coach because it aligns so closely with my own research and my own training philosophy. So I echo those comments. Thanks so much, Matt.
Yeah, and they picked the right guy for that too, James.
Thanks, Matt.
That's true. Well, the pleasure is all ours, Matt and James. We really, really appreciate the voices, the evidence-based research that you guys share, and the way that we can communicate that to the masses through this podcast. I learn something new every time that we speak, and we really appreciate these insights today. I think that if you're listening to this episode and you have not participated in strength training due to one of the barriers we mentioned, now you know what to look for in a program. But until next time, we really appreciate you being here with us. And remember, strength changes everything.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend. You can submit a question or connect with the show at strengthchangeseverything.com. Join us next week for another episode, and be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts so that you never miss another episode. Here's to you and your best health.